Exam after exam, you are not getting the grade that you want. You're failing despite putting in all of the work. However, everyone around you seems to be getting amazing grades with almost no effort. How do they do it? How do they make studying seem so easy? Find out in this video. So guys, I'm going to say something controversial in this video, but getting good grades, it can be easy if you are doing the right things. So a lot of people revise for hours on end, they cram, they spend the whole night, and then they wake up and they don't even get the grade that they want. This is because they need to reevaluate the way that they're studying and change it for the better. There's no point doing all of these inactive methods if it doesn't help you in the long run. So today what I'm going to be talking about in this video is the lazy man framework to getting amazing grades in all of your exams. This basically cuts down the effective studying method to the essentials, because I know a lot of us don't want to spend the whole weekend revising. I know a lot of us want to get things done so we can do the things we actually want to do. So in this video, I'm going to summarize and break it down so that anyone, literally anyone, even the biggest procrastinator, can get amazing grades in the exams. So today I'm going to be talking about understanding the essentials, memorizing only what you have to memorize, testing yourself on what matters, and also simulating exam conditions. Let's jump straight into it. So the first thing I want to say is don't take notes. I know you guys are going to think, what is she even talking about? But a lot of you guys are making this mistake. So first of all, when you're learning information for the first time, the main thing you want to do is understand the information. You don't want to just start writing everything the minute that the teacher starts talking, because you're going to end up reaching the end of the lesson having not understood anything with a sheet of paper that you don't understand. So what's the point? When you're learning stuff for the first time, focus on understanding the concepts behind it. If you want to write down something, ideally you should understand what you're writing. There's no point of writing something that you don't understand. If you find that you are struggling to understand things in lessons, start by watching a video of the topic beforehand and actually understand what is going on in the video. Do not make notes the first time you're watching it. Just actually try to see what's happening and try to make it so that at the end of the video, you'll be able to explain it to someone else. That truly shows that you understand it, and that's basically called the Feynman's technique. Once the video clicks, everything will come along much easier. Then you should read the textbook pages on the topic. This will mean that you understand the concept and you're now coming to see the information that the exam board wants you to know. This means that you can build on the concepts that you know and also understand it further. Again, as you are reading this textbook, do not take notes. Focus on understanding. Once you've understood, now you should know what you should write. So ideally, you should write down what is examinable and what will help you understand the topic if you do forget it at a later stage. Your notes are basically a breakdown of the textbook that you understand, and you could use it as a reminder to understanding it in the future if you do forget it. Mentally split the information into things that are examined and things which are nice to know for your understanding. Ultimately, you want to write down everything that is examinable, so something that could come up in the exam, and you want to write some other things which are good for your understanding. Ultimately, you want your notes to be very concise. You don't want them to be blabbering on and on. You want them to the point and so that you can understand it. Even if that means using slang, using abbreviations, things like that can really help to condense your notes. So making notes is to understand the concept, not to copy the textbook, because if you want to do that, you might as well not make notes. Basically, want your own set of personalized revision notes which you can make your resources from and also read at a later date. If you are not doing this, you might as well not make notes. So let's move on to number 2, which is stop aiming to memorize everything. I know it's nice, I know you want to know everything in the textbook, but it's simply not possible. And that is coming from a grade 9 A-star student. You don't need to know everything off by head. And that is where some people make a mistake. They think that they need to memorize every single thing in the textbook. It gets too overwhelming and then they end up doing nothing. Guys, you don't need to memorize the textbook. What you need to focus on is the specification. Because you have multiple topics, multiple subjects, you have so much information to learn. Why waste time learning things you don't need to know? The specification or the syllabus basically tells you every single thing the exam board wants you to know and anything that could come up in the exam. If you are confident with these, then you should be fine for anything that comes up on the exam. So guys, focus less on the textbook and focus more on the specification. An example of this is the digestive system. The digestive system is so complicated. You can go into a micro level and think about all of the cell types, the things that are involved. But if you're going to be tested on the macro level, why are you now going into the microscopic parts of the digestive system? Know what you need to know and only learn that. And then you'll learn the content much quicker and you'll feel much more confident. To memorize the specification, there are multiple methods. My favorite ones are blurting and flashcards. If you guys don't know what this is, blurting is basically an active form of recall where you basically write down everything you know about a topic on a plain sheet of paper. Gradually, you should be able to learn everything on that sheet of paper and you'll get better with time. Flashcards are also another form of active recall, and I actually do have a video on how to make effective flashcards, so be sure to watch that. And these can be done at spaced intervals to ensure that you memorize the content and you don't forget it in the future. I prefer blurting for essay-based subjects such as English, and then I use flashcards for science-based subjects, maths, formulas, things which are very objective. I prefer to learn them in a flashcard form because I find that easier, but obviously it depends on the person. So let's move on to 3, which is test yourself. Testing yourself is arguably the most important thing in revising. If you don't test yourself, let's just say you're playing yourself, because in your exam, you're going to be tested on the content. So why not test yourself before the exam so you feel more prepared? If you are running a big marathon, would you wake up that day and run it without any prior practice, or would you be practicing before? Would you be going on little runs? Would you be exercising throughout the preparation process? Obviously, you would be the second person and you would be exercising, you'll be preparing. So for your exam, how do you think you can just turn up to your exam without having done prior practice on the exam? There's no way that it's going to go well. The best way to maximize your chances of getting amazing grades in your exam is by doing practice papers beforehand, or practice questions. There are multiple ways you can do this. So for subjects which already have past paper questions and you can easily access them, you should basically do the questions in exam conditions, so that means quiet and also not distracted. And if it's coming to your exam, you can also do them in time conditions. And basically you want to do these without having your notes. You want to do this closed book, because essentially what this shows is what you do know and what you don't know. You should do these questions despite not being 100% confident, because the truth is you probably will never be. If you want to wait until you're a certain level of confidence, I would say aim for 50 to 60% and then start doing exam questions. By doing these exam questions, you will learn from your mistakes and you will start seeing the things that you are missing out, the topics that you need more revision, and it's more beneficial to your learning than not doing them because you're worried or you're not confident. Then finally, once you do these questions, the most important thing is to look at the mark scheme and mark it. Be strict with yourself. Imagine you are the strictest examiner ever. You want to ensure that in the exam, if you do get the strict examiner, you'll be happy with your results. When looking at the mark scheme, if there's a specific point that you think you'll forget or that you keep making the same mistake, write it down and turn it into a flashcard. The whole point of doing past papers is to see these mistakes and not do them in your actual exam. So please guys, when you get something wrong, focus on that. For subjects which have limited practice questions, such as English and other essay-based subjects, it can be harder to do past papers because there's such a limited amount and you don't want to run out of all of them. And also, there is limited time. These essays do take a really long time, and if you do an essay for every single practice question, you're going to be there for a while. So one thing that you can do is to plan these questions. So I would say this is effective planning. Essentially, you want to have the essay question in the middle of your page and blurt out what you want to write for that essay. So you'll use the quotes, the analysis, the context, all of the things that you'll include in the essay. You can just write it down on paper rather than writing paragraphs. Once you have your paragraph structure down, then you can basically just focus on planning so that you can make sure you're confident with the quotes, the analysis, and things that you write. The more you do these, the higher the chance that this might come up in your exam. So this is also good practice for that. And if you want to generate a random question, you can use something such as ChatGPT. You can ask it to generate you a question, and this is really useful because you probably wouldn't have seen these questions before, and it just helps you for that exam because you never know what's going to come up in English. Once you've done the plan, look at the mark scheme if there is one, or just search the exam question online to see if anyone else has done one. If there's any points of analysis or quotes that you missed out, you can write this in on another pen, and you can basically keep these mind maps for your revision and for future reference. The way to get amazing grades in these essay-based subjects is to basically keep seeking out for improvement. Never get too confident. Every essay should be a step towards you getting a better grade. You should always find some kind of mistake, some kind of thing that you can improve on in the essay and use that for the next time. You always want to be improving. So now let's move on to 4, which is to simulate exam conditions. Once you've done many topic questions, that is great. You really need to start focusing on doing the entire past paper. Now, you don't need to be 100% confident for these either, and that's a big mistake that people make, which ultimately means that they don't have enough time to do past papers in the end before the exam. So guys, please start the past papers once you finish most of the content and just get straight into it. So the final hurdle in your exam preparation is to do these whole past papers, and this helps you in 2 ways. So physically, it prepares you for the exam because you get used to the time constraint, you get used to the stress, you get used to how to tackle the questions. And my method for this is basically always make sure that you start with the easier questions. If there's a question you see and you already know this question is going to take me a while, I don't even know what to do, skip it. Fold the corner of the paper and move on, and then just carry on doing the easiest questions, because this way you'll get the most marks and you will minimize the time wasted. Once you finish these easy questions, you can now move on to the harder questions and use your remaining time to do these questions. Ultimately, exams are all about getting the most marks, so don't worry about some questions that you can't answer. Try to answer as many as you can and try not to leave anything blank. Past papers also help to test your knowledge for the exam, so you can see any parts that you've missed out on, any parts that need more revision, so you can go back to the mini topic questions and reconsolidate that topic, and then you'll be better in the long run. The point of these papers is to always go over your weaknesses and always improve. Past papers also help you mentally, so doing them in a quiet place under time constraints, it gets you used to the stress that you'll probably feel in the exam hall. And don't get me wrong guys, the exam hall can be a scary place, so the more you practice, the more you'll feel better for the exam and the more you'll be used to the conditions. It helps to avoid anxiety on the exam day because you're already used to the feeling of it. And it also prevents mind blank in the exam and also panicking when you see difficult questions. The more you do these past papers, the more you'll be better at your technique, and then you'll also learn how to not be fazed by hard questions and how to move on. Ultimately, this is the final stop on the lazy man technique. If you do all of these steps, you are guaranteed to get amazing grades, so be sure to follow all of them and let me know how you get on it in the comments. If you implement these thoroughly and use them right, then getting good grades can and should be easy. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, be sure to like, comment and subscribe, as well as share this with a friend. And be sure to check out my flashcard video where I show you how to make effective flashcards which are easy to memorize. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!